Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Layover Live. I'm Jason Swick, VP of Strategy and Insights, joined again today by my friends Star Galani. Star, welcome.
Hello.
Good to see you again. And Chris Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Back for more. Not talking paid media this time, but we are talking digital marketing trends. And I think this is a good thing to go over. When I think about podcasts I watch or things I listen to, I always love to hear about the trends and what's happening. It tells me if I'm moving in the right direction or is there things that are outside my purview that I should be thinking about. So I'm really, really happy we're going to talk about these things today. It's kind of 4 areas we're going to talk about and go over, which I think are important. Some you probably know about, some you're maybe not thinking about all that much. But let's start with number 1, which is influencer marketing. So Chris, let me kick it over to you. Let's talk about the importance of influencer marketing. We've all heard about it, but it is a trend that we're starting to see happen in the space a lot more. So let's get into influencer marketing a little bit as the latest trend.
Yeah, I mean, you see in many areas influencer marketing selling out venues, right? Selling out products online. The importance of these influencers is they know your market. They have a huge following base. People that love what they do, what they eat, what they wear, events they go to, and why not piggyback off that? So go through, start with your social media, start searching, some of the best hashtags in your area, look for those influencers and start messaging them, start partnering with them to see what you can, use to drive actions on your website. So with that influencer marketing, tie in, using CrowdRiff. Start sending out, requests to use some of that content, without directly using influencers themselves. You can go and get some of that content already, through one of our platforms. So
yeah, I'd say, my wife will tell me that I buy too many things based on influencers. I think that's the problem, right? But you find those people, and they're like, wait, what? There's a new band coming out for the Apple Watch? Like, what? And then you start to, get these tech followings, and it is true. It's like, if you think about how you do those things in your personal life and how that's why they're called influencers, right? And really think about what they're doing. We often think about those things, again, with like product-related things, but certainly for destinations and travel, they're a huge resource for that thing. And trying to find what they're talking about, you can piggyback off the same type of content and really get good ideas on that
and
side.
I think Chris was talking about this earlier too, about how like vlogging style has increased so much now. Like, it's really casual, and that's when they really talk about some of these products and things that they're using, because they don't want it to be like, oh, here is the new cleanser. Like, no one buys that because they know it's an ad right away.
Yes.
Versus just like them washing their face while they tell us about their day, and we're like, oh, that's a cool face wash, and then people like investigate what that face wash is. So I think a lot of DMOs can take that approach on getting influencers to do what they want, but not making it so obvious.
it feels more like a peer review.
Exactly.
It feels more like someone you can trust, someone relatable, someone that you could trust versus, a company paying for something, right?
So true. And the best is when you don't notice it. It's there and it kind of influences you indirectly, right? And those influencers are delivering that content to you in our next trend, which we're seeing more, which we've heard a lot about lately, and that's short form video. So thoughts on that for like a trend, right?
Well, I know
Should
we've
be
just been,
obvious, right?
and I know a lot of the DMOs are already creating this type of content. We talked about it in our last podcast too, that it's important. If we're not doing it, we should be doing it, and then we can continue to amplify it. But something to think about is how you can take those short form videos and also integrate them into your websites. So Visit Las Vegas is a great example on how they created these widgets that really look like a TikTok flow. You can do that with Instagram Reels or whatever other platform you'd want to publicize, but this creates that connection between social as well as your website, helps conversions, and helps get that user to identify with your site and take actions there. So that's definitely an important way to take your short form content and then get people to do what you want.
Vegas, great example with the new site and how they incorporated that as part of that. I think it's a wonderful use of short form video. Anything else to add there, Chris, on that side?
Yeah, I mean, I liked the way that the URLs for each one of those links had specific things they were tied to, right? So that user content that they had on Vegas had URLs and destinations for people to go to that tied with that content. So you were then able to follow through with that action, something that you liked that you saw, you click on it, and then it goes right to that concert, maybe that that next concert date.
The most recent one that I saw was about their new buffet at one of their casinos. And like, I am not a Vegas person, but I was like, I have to go to this buffet. And so they sucked me in.
Oh, it's they'll get you, right? And that's that. But it tells you it works, and it's so important, right? Because driving those audiences. Great way to get incremental growth and really, again, find that content that I think really resonates with your target audience. Influencers are a great way. Leveraging that short form video is great. So those are two trends right out of the gate that we're seeing. Keeping all that in mind, the importance of first party data, as we've talked about as of late, the sunsetting of cookies, which we've all been talking about for a long time, and all these things that are happening. All of that centers around data privacy, right? Something that we hear, when we read an article, we don't probably think too much about on a day-to-day basis, but certainly that's going to grow. Data privacy is going to be something that's going to be first and foremost and center as we start to talk about digital marketing in the future. So Star, what are your thoughts on that trend and what you're seeing there?
Well, what I've been seeing is Google's been actually putting out a lot of articles on data privacy and how they're hoping to be part of this huge culture shift going forward, but also giving users the relevant content they still need. Mm-hmm. And they plan on doing that with the right partnerships and also enlisting sort of these loyalty programs. So think outside of someone just signing up for your e-newsletter and learning about an event or a restaurant, which is still great, but taking those users and converting them into true insiders, having events that are just for them, giving them access to coupons and referrals that you normally wouldn't. I think we're trying to take that step in order to give them what they want, but also taking a more privacy approach on, thanking them for sharing all their data with us.
Yeah, I just got hit with loyalty. I bought a piece of furniture from World Market, and immediately as loyalty, they provided me some credits back, right? So totally works. So play off, things like e-com. Do some tricks and tips, that you guys can learn across the DMO space to really drive people to engage with your platforms, engage with your website, and start taking a more trusted approach to it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Data privacy is such an important thing. I mean, you've seen what Apple's done over the last few years with that, Google, to your point, and everything that's happening in that space. Listen, advertising is not going away. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this isn't like it's going to end all advertising. There's no way that's going to happen. They're just going to be able to do it in a more privacy-centric way, and these companies are coming up with good ways of doing that. So keep an eye on that. Your point about e-commerce world, it is a good place to keep an eye on the moving needle. Things usually happen there first because direct dollars are tied to that outcome, right? So keep an eye out to those type of things. Reading articles that have to, an ad week or things of that nature that have to do with what's happening on the e-commerce space, you can bet it's going to filter down to you at some point in time. So keeping an eye to that is certainly important. All that, and which you guys kind of all touched on in your responses there, was the last trend that we're seeing. Not a new trend, certainly one that was happening well before the pandemic, but I think is becoming first and foremost at the front of these trends because of data privacy, because of first-party cookies and all the other stuff that's happening, and that's the need for personalization and getting better about it. Not just talking about it, but what does personalization really mean? It's a trend that's certainly evolving. And Chris, I'm going to kick it over to you. What are your thoughts on this trend of personalization and where it's at and where it's going?
Yeah, I pulled a couple stats on user statistics, right, on what we all do before we purchase or consider something or go somewhere, travel somewhere, right? It's the stat that I looked at was 70% of us prefer a personalized experience, right? So remember that 70% of your user base prefers that personalized experience. One of the things that you can do with that personalized experience is that we all get is retargeting campaigns, right? Mm-hmm. Personalizing where someone might have been. I call them add to cart campaigns, right, in e-com. Well, you can do the same thing in the DMO space and sort of personalize that. When someone goes to your meetings and venues, place on your website, you can then retarget them down the funnel with more intentful actions to book a convention or a meeting space, a sporting event, a wedding, tickets, hotels, restaurants, and move them along, move them down the funnel to drive actions. In marketing, we call that awareness, consideration, and conversion, right? So a lot of the DMO space is in the awareness category, but with some of that retargeting and personalizing that experience, you're now driving the consideration stage, which is working people down that funnel. And even more so, you can even drive further, especially with meetings and conventions, is that if you guys are collecting lead info, names, emails, phone numbers for RFPs, now you're getting conversions, right? So awareness, consideration, and then conversion, actually collecting names, right? That you can possibly get your sales teams to call and book a future meeting, convention, and even more so, that has a lifetime value connected to it, right? If those same people book year after year, now you're adding dollars to that. So by personalizing the experience, you can drive actions, sequence some of your marketing campaigns like you brought up a minute ago, some sequencing to really move them along with that personalized experience. So I think that's really, really impactful. We see that in a lot of different areas, especially e-com.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we, when we often talk about destination marketing, at least as it sits from a DMO standpoint, we don't think about a funnel really, but it really still is. It's a funnel within a funnel. Certainly DMOs sit at the top of the funnel for the most part, but there are desired actions and things you want someone to do. There is a sequence that you want them to do, from awareness, getting them into the website. How do I get them deeper into the website, get them into outdoor activities, and get them in from outdoor specifically into fishing, and then how do I get them into fishing, into pushing them into my partners and showcasing some of them, and then how do I get them to click off my partner and go over. That's a funnel. You're getting somebody that doesn't know about you to then know about you, to get them to complete some desired action, and then hand them off to a partner. You have to start thinking about your retargeting and your systems in that way. How do I move somebody from A to B to C to D? And I often don't see that happening. I often see retargeting as, hey, someone comes on the site, cool, let's cook him, and then send them a message again. And the message is often the same thing they probably already saw, or the same kind of high-level generic, where that person's probably already past the A stage and the B stage. It's probably somewhere towards C and D. So what's the right next step in really mapping that stuff out as you're thinking about these things, I think is important. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that on the personalization side and the need for retargeting. Retargeting is a whole nother strategy in and of itself. It is a trend that's here to stay. But as we're starting to be more intentional and marketing dollars from DMOs are under more scrutiny than they've ever been before, we have to really think about, what do I want someone to do? What is the logical first step and second? Now, nothing in the world happens linear that way, but you got to kind of think about what the logical next step is, and it really helps you to map out not only your campaign, but the creative that's needed and the messaging for each of those stages. So Star, following up to that, what are your thoughts on personalization?
I think an easy win that most DMOs want to do or probably are doing is utilizing email marketing for personalization. It's quick, it's easy, it's very simple, especially with Act On. Like to Chris's point, trying to get their email and then being able to serve them like content. So if they're only interested in restaurants, giving them that content, especially for meetings. I think these event planners really like knowing what are the new things that are going on, new venue spaces, how I can do a team building activity, personalizing that content for like, oh, hey, Star, saw that you wanted to have a meeting here in 2020. Sorry, we couldn't make that happen, but here's something we can do for you in 2024 with these incentives, and here's some cool new event spots that you can look at as well. I think utilizing Act On is like a quick, easy win, and lets us not only take personalization, but also combine retargeting and remarketing with that too.
Yeah, really, really good stuff there. So guys, I think those are some great trends, folks, to go over, right? And again, no wow factor with that stuff, all things that we're thinking about. But what may have been something that we were thought about doing before, maybe now more top of mind now, or the timing's right for those things. So again, I don't think anything that we presented here is something that, I haven't heard that type of marketing before. But these are trends that we're starting to see more and more of, because we're seeing engagement go up. We're seeing results for those things. Influencer marketing, short form video, keeping data privacy in mind, at the same time providing that personalized experience, thinking about how I sequence somebody through to a desired action is important. So great info, guys. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing that and tuning in and helping us out with that. And thanks for tuning in each and every week. We're available on Spotify and iTunes through audio podcasts if you'd like to consume us that way. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.